What's up, YouTube? I've got an incredible guest. This is a random social media reach out, but this guy is blowing up over social media. And I've been talking about Wall Street and private equity being interested in home service. High-ticket home service is a gold rush. Inside of that niche, roofs and solar are the easiest to duplicate, the easiest to make profitable. And inside of this business, I want to talk about how if you can build an 8-figure home service company, an 8-figure roofing, solar, HVAC, electrical company, that you could potentially have an 8-figure net worth. This man has participated in more than $1 billion in the most recent years, couple years in acquisitions. Sold a company for $52 million. And today on the Blue Collar Boardroom, we've got a guy that's done it in real estate, done it in companies like electrical companies, but also done it in companies from all different sects. This is Derik Fay. Hey, welcome to the Blue Collar Boardroom, man.
Brother, thanks for having me.
Hey, man.
Appreciate it.
A locals Naples big time player.
I don't know about big time, but yes, local to Naples, and it was great to find out that you're a local guy too.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's funny how that works out. Your media guy saw that we were having a big event. Brad's there, and he's like, dude, I got to get you connected with Derik. And conversation went quick.
Yep.
And we got some big things to talk about, man. What do you think most about the roofing space? A lot of times banks have said this is kind of an ugly space for investment.
I would tell you, the minds of that have changed, and maybe that's tied to the new economic times. Anytime there's a downturn, what was sexy is no longer sexy. Technology, venture capital in the traditional sense, startups, and it reverses to what's reliable, what's going to be going on no matter hard times or not. And so that gets you right back to the service industry. And so I've always been very interested in the space. I've built a fortune in the, as you would call it, the blue collar sector. I've always thought that was
owning a gym is as blue collar as it gets.
100%.
Come on, man.
Gyms, salons, electric companies. I mean, that's the bread and butter of the country. Let's be honest, right? And so no matter where I've gotten in the trajectory of my career, I've always had a piece of that in my portfolio.
Well, we'll get to the $52 million exit, the $1 billion in acquisitions, but you started from some humble beginnings, sort of a dark past. A lot of guys on here, they don't become roofers because they had it easy.
Agreed.
So you a lot of times people think bankers grow up and they get it easy.
Yeah, definitely not a banker. Maybe that shows my blue collar in me.
But refute that.
I refute that.
All right.
I refute that wholeheartedly. So I grew up in the smallest town in the smallest state in the country, North Kingstown, Rhode Island. Most people don't even know where that is. I say it's near New York, but it is not.
It is.
And so I grew up with a single mom. I grew up in Section 8 housing, extreme poverty. People say, well, what is extreme poverty really? Even Brad Lee asked me on the podcast because it's thrown around kind of very flippantly. Extreme poverty for me was the biggest concern in our lives was food. So are we going to eat today? One of the stories I tell to kind of give a point of reference, I'm a martini guy. I love martinis, but I refuse for them to put olives in my martini. And the reason is when we did have food, the meal was often 5 olives, 1 on each finger. My mom made it a game so that at least we had some fun while we were trying to eat. And as silly as that sounds, that's how poor we were. But it was also what turned me into the entrepreneur that I am. Also, on top of that, my sister and my mom and I came from a horrifically abusive situation. The stepfather at the time, beat us to within an inch of our life almost daily for about 8 years. And again, I always say this because it's important. I don't tell these stories because I identify as a victim. It's a badge of honor for me. And I tell it because what I know to be true as well as anybody is you can come from a place of nothing, literally the gutter, and you can rise as high and as deep or as far as you want with just some goddamn perseverance.
I love to hear that, man.
Yeah.
When you were going through those uncertain times, I was watching other podcasts that you were thinking about making money early in your life.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of these early entrepreneur moments, like what you were doing for money?
Yeah. It's funny, when you're 4 or 5 years old, you're typically not worried about money.
Right.
And so, one of my earliest kind of funny memories was there were these trading cards called garbage pail kids.
Yeah.
I think you probably heard this on the podcast. And it was 25 cents for a pack of 6. I had been pushed into, because I was a smart kid in a public school, I'd been given a scholarship to go to, I believe it was a Baptist or a Christian school. These kids had never seen anything like it in my life. These Garbage Pail Kids, cartoons, and their brains are exploding. And so I had them stuck on my backpack. And one of the kids saw it and couldn't believe, oh my God, these privileged private school kids had never seen anything like this in their life. They're at country clubs in Newport, on boats, and I'm, scraping in the dirt. So that one kid offered me $1 for one sticker. Now I had paid 25 cents for 6.
Oh no!
Well, yeah. So my little 6-year-old brain was like, holy shit! Wait,
arbitrage.
I just found a way to make food for my family. And so I took that money, started buying these cards and bringing them to school. So I had a little Derik Fay enterprise in like 2nd grade. And the only reason that enterprise stopped was after about 90 days, the parents kept complaining to either the pastor or the priest of the school that the children, they weren't eating lunch because all of the money was coming to me for these cards. I would sit down at the lunch table with my backpack like a drug dealer. I'd have packs and packs and packs of these cards, and I'm selling $1, $2, $3. I was making hundreds of dollars a day. And then back then, of course, entrepreneurship wasn't sexy, and I was some public school run anyway, so they kicked me out of school, so that enterprise ended. But it changed my life. I learned so much sitting at that cafeteria table with my backpack open, slinging cards. I learned scarcity. I learned building value. I learned, upsell, all of these types of things. I learned marketing because when I wasn't at lunch, I was talking about these things that I had, and other people were talking about it. And so it's amazing how much you can learn when you're in a position of nothing. I actually think that's a greater asset than having everything.
Absolutely, man. So growing up, where did you learn work ethic? Because I think honestly that there's a problem in America. One of the things is people are afraid to do a dirty job, but it's like just do some job to develop bit of work ethic. Because you weren't always this guy. I know that you made some big multi-million-dollar deals, but did you do ever any tough jobs that you didn't want to do?
So I did every tough job. And so for me, I think the toughest job I ever did, which built an incredible work ethic, was I was the man of the house at 5 years old. And so that's an incredibly tough job for a 35-year-old, never mind a 5-year-old. And so when your mom leans on you and your family leans on you, work ethic becomes, in fact, I wouldn't even describe it as me working hard. I didn't know any other way. Survival. And so when survival becomes your habit, working hard is just what you do
to live.
It's just to live. And so now I'm coming up on 45 years old. Knock on wood, I have more success than maybe I deserve and more than most people ever have. I still get up every morning. I'm the same goddamn person. I will never not be that dirt poor kid from Rhode Island, and that is an asset, of course, and a liability at the same time. But I work as hard today as I did when I was 6 years old trying to figure out how to eat.
There has to be something to this Dave Ramsey stat. It's like talking about 8 out of 10 millionaires. It didn't inherit any money. And if you go in deeper, it's like almost like 9 out of 10.
More than that, I heard a statistic, and I believe it, that children or people that come from some level of unhealthy or abusive or poor families are like 100 times more likely to become successful.
Wow. I always tell people to turn their oddities into commodities.
Absolutely.
And the toughest thing for roofing contractors, blue-collar guys, home service guys in this age of social media is telling your story, just like the one you just told right there. And a lot of these guys, they're on this path, first earning their first 7 figures as a home service guy. They may not make that much, but then they need to make it in profit. You talk about revenue, you talk about profit. Let's talk about revenue versus EBITDA. And I want these guys to understand by watching this podcast how to get an 8-figure net worth. Okay. And so let's say you start with $1 million in sales.
Okay.
Let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, so I think
sales versus EBITDA, and then what you got to do to grow to get to $1 million in EBITDA.
Yeah, well, okay, so we'll start with $1 million in top line sales, which, by the way, an incredible accomplishment, right? Unless you're spending $1.1 million,
right?
In which case you're losing $100,000, right? And so I think the biggest part is, and we talked about it briefly before, is regardless of your top line sales, if you don't have your books in order, if you don't know your numbers, if your financials aren't locked in, there's going to be a problem. And I know that especially in the service industry, a lot of the people, the founders, the owners, they're out there working side by side with their people. So the last thing that they're thinking about is the books.
Right.
And so then 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, you have what should be an incredibly massive company that you've built on the back of your entire life, but you don't, and it doesn't get sold because you didn't do the things that were also
I think it comes
needed.
down to a simple concept. You thought about it as a negative, but I think it's
Yeah.
a positive. Okay, Grant taught me this lesson. He
Shoot.
said, if you don't pay attention to your money, then it won't pay attention to you.
That's
and
fair.
what do you do first thing in the morning?
Hmm.
I don't know. You said it on Brad's podcast. First thing in the morning, you got to have
Oh, I
it.
get up and check my my bank account.
Yeah,
That's
you
right.
said it like it was a
That's
bad
right.
thing.
That's right.
Why not
That's
let
right.
that be a good thing?
I've done it since before I can remember.
I would tell you that most of the guys watching this don't even look at their bank account, don't look at their QuickBooks, don't
Sure.
look at their profit and loss,
Yep.
don't look at their revenue.
Right.
And so if you don't pay attention, if you don't
That's
know, how can you hold them accountable to do it?
I agree with that. Yeah, listen, if you're a religious person, the Bible is your book.
Mhm.
If you're a business person, your bank account, your bank statements, and your QuickBooks, that's your Bible.
Right.
And you should be as devoted to that as you, if you're a religious person, to the Bible and to whoever it is that is your, person. 100%. It's everything. And it's when I come into these companies, whether it's a $100 million company or a $1 million company, that is the first place that I start because it is the biggest problem. And it's also the most important solution to selling your company. Even if your books are okay, or even you would consider them to be well done, highly encourage spending a little bit of time, whether it's consulting or a CPA, someone coming in and showing really what profitability looks like, because you have superficial profitability and a P&L, and then you have optimized profitability where you really do add backs and you get to what you just referred to, which is your EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. And that is very important when you come to sell, because that's what the buyers are going to look at. They're going to look at that number and they're going to multiply it by whatever that may be for your industry.
Now, what's a roofing company worth if you have money, you've paid yourself a lot of money, but you don't have certified books? Your books aren't correct.
Well, I mean, it can be
even if you are paying taxes. I mean,
Sure.
can you have value on a business if you don't have your books correct? I mean, a lot of these guys just don't have certified accounting.
Yeah, you don't have to have audited financials, but you definitely, let's put it this way, if you know you're getting ready to sell, at the very least, I beg and implore you to have someone on your staff that's cleaning up the books of the year prior, because it's not about whether you can't sell your company, because I see people sell their companies all the time with bad books. In fact, a savvy buyer hopes that your books are trash because they're going to buy your company for so much less than it's worth. Honestly, just a little bit of work with someone, even over a 90-day period or a 6-month period, can sometimes as much as double, triple, or quadruple the value of your company. Because if you don't know how to read a P&L and a balance sheet, I guarantee you're going to get robbed when you sell your company. It's just a fact, because anyone with the resources to buy your company is savvy enough to use your financials against you.
Right.
The goal is for you to use your financials against the seller to optimize your exit.
Now, let's talk about how a roofer might be able to do that with a company like mine.
Okay.
So our goal this year is to complete $100 million in sales, make $10 million in profit. And, at $10 million in EBITDA, we're going to be treated a little bit differently than a $5 million roofing company. And so the idea is our first acquisition, Ricky Southers, $18 million roofing company. He's bolted on his company because he knows my multiplier is going to be a lot higher.
That's right.
And so we got to clean up some things and get him in alignment. But why would somebody with an $18 million company partner with me 50-50 and do it even sometimes with like really no money?
Absolutely. The answer isn't why would they. The question is why wouldn't they? And so you talked about the $1 billion in roll-ups and mergers and acquisitions that I did. That's exactly what I did. So let's break it down very simply. But you have a $100 million company, $10 million in EBITDA. That is going to trade at a much, much higher multiple. So let's just, for easy math, say that's a 10 times multiple, which means your 10 million EBITDA company is worth $100 million.
Right.
Okay. Now, Joe Smith has one with $1 million in EBITDA. That will trade at maybe a 2 or 3. So let's call that, they sell his company for $2.5 million. Now, if you take Joe's company, you roll it underneath your 10 million, now he's getting the 10 times multiple on his number. So even if you take half, he's getting 5 million instead of 2.5. So he just doubled his money by literally just rolling his company under you and giving you as much as half.
And what I see a lot of times is like, even with my most successful students, success can be the enemy of greatness.
Yeah.
Success creates new problems.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, even in my business, break points in business where sales outgrows operations.
Sure.
And, have you ever seen that happen before in fast growing companies?
Constantly.
And
it's probably the number one bottleneck.
okay, so what's your number one go-to solution?
If sales are outperforming sales are outgrowing operations.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, we talked about it before. Putt. What is it? Drive for show, putt for dough.
Right.
You have to have sales in the beginning. It is the number one most important thing because cash cures.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get to a certain point, and that's right around the mark that we talked about, if operations don't grow along with your revenues, the margins go down. Stuff falls through the crack. And so at some point, that number one bottleneck is operations. It's a bandwidth issue, right? So your current infrastructure can handle up to $5 million. Once you get past that, your margins actually decrease because of the lack of operation. So just like you're continually trying to grow your revenue, from a scale perspective and a bandwidth perspective, operations at some point in bottleneck number one has to start growing with revenue.
Mm-hmm. It was about 2 or 3 years ago that, working with partners is tough. My dad's my partner. But look, I'm a loyal guy.
Yeah.
Been married to my wife for 13 years. My dad's been my partner from day one. And we butt heads,
Of course.
But
not even in business, I'm sure.
No, it's a true story. But I have operational control of the business.
Yeah.
And I went to a consultant who kind of mapped out a plan to this $100 million number.
Sure.
But it really was the simple shit that 3 years ago, it started with mission statement, core values, market leader positioning, and how I structured my meetings.
Sure.
And, what do you think about a business that doesn't really have all that lined out and doesn't have a good communication or meeting structure?
Yeah, it's the difference between a small business and a big business.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to oversimplify things, right? I mean, let's go back to the fact that when you're starting your first company, you're just focusing on sales, you're focusing on your core group of people, you become really good friends, you're building a family over a company, which is fine because that's really where a lot of companies start. But if you don't mature and grow and develop out of that, and then that's very simple things like SOPs, policies and procedures, financial management, layers of operational control so that you, the founder or the operator, are not answering every question from every single person because that stops you from growing the company. And so as you said, the consultant that you worked with is very astute. A lot of the time, I would say more than 75% of the time, it's very small fixes that's right in front of the operator, but you're so busy doing everything else, you rarely see the things that are right in front of you.
Well, people hate meetings. I mean, they say
Absolutely.
death by meeting.
That's right.
What do you have to say about that?
I felt the same way early on in my career.
Death by meeting.
I felt really the same way, and so throughout my career, I've done some cool things to try to break up the monotony and achieve multiple things. So I would typically break up my meetings. Some meetings we'd break them into 4 parts, and so the first part was financial, and then the last part was operations. But in the middle, we would talk about things like, what's your family doing? Who's going on vacation? I know it seems really like weird
that's cool,
and a waste of time, but it shows a couple of things. Besides showing the fact that you're saying, look, I'm still here and I still care, even though we've grown, it also demonstrates at the most fundamental level that you can work in the place that you still share your life with. And so that's important because I would rather have an employee work happy than work hard because, and I've said this before, I believe someone that only works hard burns out really quick and ends up leaving, but someone that works happy will work with you and work hard forever.
Hey, I love that. And I do it for the people. My whole mission is about character, confidence, and freedom for everyone. Doesn't matter if you're a salesperson or coming up from an employee. We want you to be a part of this big picture. I want to put as much of this company in the employees' hands as possible. If they can fight for the opportunity to grow, they can have a piece of the pie.
That's right.
And that's part of what we're going to put together. But,
I agree.
As you talk with companies and you vet with companies, what do you look for in an owner and what do you stay away from? Because a lot of these guys, I heard it another one that they call me and they want help, but then they want to talk.
Right. Well, there's no problems. So
what is that, dude?
I don't have the answer, but I know that. Oh hell no, you came right. We went right at it.
Seriously, even the first call, I started telling you my fucking weaknesses.
That's right, and so that's the sign of a good person that's self-aware, and someone that can actually grow a company of substance. Because if you want to grow something of substance, you have to be someone of substance, and in my opinion, that means leading with not leading with your flaws, but leading with a sense of I don't know everything, because the best thing, the change that I made early in my career, because I wasn't always built like this. In my early 20s, I wanted all the credit. I wanted to be known as the guy that solved every goddamn problem, and I struggled. And then as I started to just go, you know what, it's just taxing and stressful on me. I'm going to open up to the fact that, listen, I don't know all the answers. It changed everything for me. It absolutely changed everything.
Well, I would be a cocky son of a bitch if I made $5 million at 22 too.
Yeah,
I would be a cocky son of a bitch if I pulled off what you pulled off.
Yeah,
I was in high school when you did this shit.
Well, don't make me feel old.
Okay, but goddamn, you got a lot more hair than me, so you people might think that I'm older than you. So tell them about how you hit your first major lick. This is a crazy story.
Oh man, yeah.
I love this.
All right, so I moved to Florida at 22. I've done a lot of really cool deals at 22. God knows how. I put together, I'm a multi-millionaire at 22 years old. And I did that on the back of, like
liquid.
I said, liquid.
That's fucking retarded.
Yeah, well, I didn't know where else to put it.
No, but either way, I say it in retarded, like.
Yeah, it is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Although, if you look at it in the perspective of, you could argue that I started at 5 years old.
Yeah, it's true.
So I put in some work, right?
I put in some work.
But that's neither here nor there. So I get to Florida. I do what I always do, which is, I talk to every human being I meet. It drives Chandra, my fiance, out of her mind. Now she's like on board with it. When we first started going out, she's like, you've talked to 700 people at the bar. Like, you're leaving the bar to go say hi to some guy that just like looked at you and to give him a compliment on his shoes. What are you doing? I go, this is how things happen. Like, if you want a meaningful life, you have to give meaningful.
You have to be curious.
Feedback.
You have to be curious
about everything.
You have to seek opportunity.
Everything.
I look at every conversation like I'm ruling out opportunity.
You are. And you wouldn't be amazed, but I have literally gotten multi-million-dollar deals because a guy walked by me and I went, my man, those shoes are fantastic. He's like, hey, yours too. Hey, what do you do? Oh, you know what? I've got a company I'm looking to exit. Boom. Like, but it seems simple, but people don't do it. Like, just be a nice person. Put a goddamn smile on your face, stick out your hand, and money comes.
It comes.
It comes.
Like they talk about the law of attraction. That moment when these guys came up to you, you weren't reading that stuff then, were you?
Oh, so the deal. Sorry, I got off track. All right, so I get here. I'm 22 years old. The reason I meet the two top realtors in Naples. And they say, D, let's take you out to lunch tomorrow. I was like, perfect. So they're like in their, mid 40s. They're selling multi-million-dollar homes, Gulf Harbor, all over, $4 or $5 million. So they get a phone call, and they say, can we stop, make a quick stop before lunch? Sure, no problem. So we go inside, and it's an apartment complex, like 350 units, and just recently bought by a huge real estate company, okay? And what they're doing is they're converting all of the apartments to condominiums. And now the plan is, we're going to raise the rent, we're going to do this, we're going to push all these people out.
A lot of money.
Right, we make $150,000 per unit. We want to pre-sell them in the closet. How many do you want? How many do you want? And they're literally writing stuff down. Now I'm 22 and I'm a hustler at heart. So I'm like,
you give no fucks.
I'm like, listen, something's going on here. So we get in the car and I say, hey guys, are you going to participate? And they go, we don't want this bullshit. Low income, we have no interest in it. We sell multi-billion, so we go to lunch. But I'm not even listening to what they say at lunch. I go home, I do some research, find out that in Florida 20 years ago they had first right of refusal if they wanted if they were going to convert to condos. So what do? I draft a document.
Sales
letter. Hey guys, great news. Of course, not supposed to know, but they should have. Yeah. Great news. Your apartment's going to be converted to a condo. You have the right to buy it if you can. Highly suggest you do. If you can't, assign your rights to me. I'll give you $1,000 to relocate. Spent $70 and had them couriered so that it was a knock on the door, official letter, so it would get opened.
That's called risk is the down payment for success. Hey. I'm sure you were worried about the cost.
$70 and I wasn't worried about the cost. But here's the thing. If the landlord had called me out, okay, then buy them all. I'd have been like, okay, never mind. Yeah. But he didn't because they were so blinded by their greed in losing the $150,000. So a couple calls back and forth. Finally, they go, listen, what do you want to go away? And I said, well, they didn't remember that I was in the room. I said, well, I'm guessing you're going to make about $140,000, $150,000 per unit. I had 250 units assigned to me. So I said, if you give me $20,000 per unit, I'll give them back to you. They agreed. I made $5 million in under 30 days with $70 of my investment.
Where there's a will, there's a way, people.
And listen, my question is, would you have recognized the opportunity? You would have. And so people, would you recognize the opportunity? Then would you have done the research? Would you have drafted the letter?
Most people would have been afraid of pissing somebody off.
That's exactly.
Nobody would fucking piss them off.
Here's the thing.
That's the thing.
There's no rules.
People wouldn't have the balls to do that.
That's right. And why? What's the worst case that could have happened to me? Landlord would have said...
Your landlord or your friends, what about your friends who went there? You got inside information. Did they give you any shit about it?
I asked them if they were interested. They said, we don't want anything to do with it.
You were transparent about it.
100%. Why not?
Some random
If they had said yes, I would have brought them in, done it together.
Right.
So, look, here's the thing people have to understand. There are laws, but other than laws, there are no goddamn rules. If you can think of something, you can backfill into how to make that thing happen.
That's my guy right there.
That's it.
There's no rules.
There's no rules.
There's no fucking rules.
That doesn't mean you treat people poorly.
The most important thing in business is the numbers and the ethics. I believe
there it is,
dude.
That's
if
right.
you put bad karma out there,
That's right.
you will pay a karmic debt.
You get it back.
So if you live by the balance sheet and by good ethics, what do you have to?
Nothing.
You don't have nothing to worry about.
That's right. And the best part of this story, about a year later, and I've now done 3 other deals with the company that paid me the $5 million. They were pissed at first.
But then this guy's a hustler.
That's right. A couple other deals came up where there were some bottlenecks. They reached out to me, and I helped them solve the problem and made more money.
Oh, now you're the cleaner. You're the problem solver.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So talk about your big failure after that. I mean, I know that this is the normal story, but it's really interesting. That's how I came across it and was really impressed. It's a brand I knew about. So your first investment.
Which failure are we talking about? Okay. So I am a...
how old were you then?
I am 23.
23 years old.
23 years
got
old.
Millions in the bank.
Yep.
And now you got an opportunity. Someone's pitching you.
Well, I'm a fledgling venture capitalist. I just launched my firm, 3F Management.
Okay.
So I'm out there looking to put my money to work. And so
not even 25.
No, 23 and change.
Jesus.
I know. An anomaly for sure.
You're lucky you survived that.
I'm lucky. Very lucky. If I had been in Miami, we wouldn't be sitting here. I'm sure of it. Okay. I know my personality, my strengths, and my weaknesses. Investment came across for a grocery store. Asked for $500,000. Gave him the $500,000. 20% interest. Paid me back in under 6 months. Done. Next time they said we need $1 million and we'd like to build a small fitness center attached to the grocery store. I said, man, that's a great concept. I'll design it. I'll do all the stuff. Gave him the $1 million, built the small fitness center, paid me back 20% in like 4 months. A couple of weeks later, we want $1.8 million. Couldn't write that goddamn check fast enough. Now, everyone listening is like, okay, kid.
Yeah, but I'd have wrote that check too.
Yeah, of course you would.
That's not a dumb deal.
Yeah, of course you could. I don't know.
Paid you back twice.
Exactly. So anyway, money evaporated, gone. Fought for like 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months.
His business model wasn't working, didn't have the...
Oh, no. The money literally...
They stole it.
For lack of a better word, yes.
Okay.
Actually, not for lack of a better word. That's the word. So I get to my attorney, he goes, Derik, listen, we can keep throwing money at this, but you're not getting it back. So I said, okay. Now I'm pissed. And so I go back to them and I say, they're still there. I say, I will relieve $400,000 of the 1.4 and I'll figure out on the back end how I deal with that from an economic standpoint write-off. But I'm taking the assets of this small fitness center. It was maybe, I don't know, $100,000 of equipment, 1,500 members. And out of spite, if you ask me, how did Around the Clock Fitness start? It started with one word, spite. I wanted to make my 1.8 back. Didn't want to own a gym. Didn't want to own anything in my life. Ironically, now I own a ton of stuff. So I built the first Around the Clock Fitness across the street so they could see it. Literally across the street.
Where was the first one?
Pine Island and Cape Coral.
Oh, nice.
So I built that. And when I say massive success, like 12,000 members in the first year. And so I poured myself into it because I was so upset with myself for being taken that I poured all of that anger, all of that disappointment, all of that loss into a model that was better than everyone else. It just exploded. And so that became like a $3 million net positive a year gym.
Ooh,
one gym.
Recurring.
Annually.
Easy money.
Easy money. And so I just kept doing other companies and investing and just running this one location. And, everybody wants to franchise, everybody wants to buy it. So eventually, after like 6 or 7 years, I said, okay, let's do this. Expand. So then I built 5 more in about a 4-year period. And then I sold it in 2019 to the largest fitness company in the world for $52.2 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
So my boxing coach is going to have to get here because I joined this fitness gym that's got basically a really interesting business model. When I joined, it was doing 10 to 15,000 a month.
Yep.
Now he's on to his third location, and this guy's an incredible operator. But his fitness model is that you just go in anytime, there's no classes, and he gets you with some personal mitts, but he mixes in a lot of different pads. He creates a good culture, but it's that boxing fitness model.
I love it.
And he's now basically licensing his first gyms, and it was all because like he adopted the social sales schemes methods. And,
Sure.
and if you ask what I teach these guys, it's literally to use these unorthodox strategies to grow their business. If they don't, they're going to be extinguished.
I agree with that.
And it doesn't matter if you're a gym owner. My principles still work. Billy's grown from a $10,000 guy to a $100,000 a month guy. And I'm sure that he would sit down with you and you'd tell him, oh my God, you have this awesome opportunity to scale and exit your business for millions of dollars.
But everybody has that opportunity.
And so
everybody has that opportunity.
If somebody is just getting started and they're like, I would never sell. No way. Like, as a matter of fact, I'm thinking about a guy of mine that is going to be involved in our deal who said that. Then they changed their mind. I mean, can people scale and exit without selling? I mean, the idea of, being a partner in something big, for me, the thing that I'm excited about is partnering with other roofing companies. Like the company that I partnered with, they're really good at retail. They're really good at something that I need to learn to do better.
Sure.
And they were my best students at retail. So by basically bringing them on, I'm bringing on their sales leader saying, hey, I'm supposed to be the sales expert, but teach me something, dog.
And that's the I'm so glad you said that's one of the biggest advantages in that roll-up, where you have all of these other companies coming and joining. You have best practice. You have shared resources, shared technology. And that's exactly what happens when I'm just coming in clear. So I recognize you have a great opportunity, and I say, listen, let's do this. Let's bring 10 other companies in. What's your weakness? What's your strength? And you've got these shared resources where, okay, this is the operational expert. You're coming up to the top, and you're going to run operations. You have the best technology. Who's your head of technology? You go up to the top. And then you've got all of the categories with the best of the best. And then you create shared practices that flow down. Now you've got one massive enterprise that's doing everything optimized. You take market share, and then you get the biggest offer you've ever seen in your life.
Dude, I'm telling you, so many of us out there feel like there's no end game sometimes. Yeah. And the reality is, guys, for me, I want to put as much into real assets and diversify. You got these banks failing and these uncertain times in front of us. What do you think about protecting your cash flow and really protecting your American dream? Where do you think is a safe place to put your resources? I know that. Where do you put your resources?
I put them into businesses.
Nice.
I do. I'm an opportunistic real estate guy. And we talked about it here in the beginning, and I'm getting now back into more of the service-based industry. I don't believe it's anything that is going anywhere ever. I don't care about AI. I don't care about all that type of stuff. There are some fundamental things here in the U.S. that are never going to change. And a lot of it is the blue-collar stuff, the service industry, that type of stuff. And so for me, contrary to everybody else, I am very light in the market. I'm very light in real estate. I invest in what I am really good at, which is businesses. And so even encourage people that just have cash on the side to invest through me, like we talked about, into businesses that I am operating. Because year over year, you're never going to see a better return than in a brick and mortar or any type of business that you're involved in, because you're looking at unprecedented returns on your investment, because I sell companies really quick in that 1 to 3, 3 to 5. So if you invest, say, $500,000 into a company that's making $1.5 million, from a cash flow standpoint, you're getting 20-30% annually. Then you get another 20 or 30% at exit. You're talking about in a 5-year period, like 150% return.
Dude, we got to have you at the conference. We got to have you speaking.
Love it.
We got to figure out how we can get as many home service guys there. Anybody that's got a blue collar business that wants to scale to be able to one day exit. This guy's going to give you the blueprint. More importantly, he's going to be coaching me behind the scenes on a major play. We're building the wealthiest conglomerate of home service companies. And this YouTube, it could be the connector of something huge. It wasn't even a few days ago.
Right. We know each other.
We're messaging through social media.
Right.
And it's funny, whenever you're playing at the highest level, the deals don't take that long to get done.
They don't. Nope.
It's funny because game recognizes game.
That's right. Hey, listen, we were supposed to meet on Monday.
Yeah.
So we had it scheduled. I sat in it for like 3 hours. I'm like, forget that. Like, he's down the road. I canceled my entire day to come because speed to opportunity is everything. And that is something people need to hear. If the really, really smart people are so disadvantaged against even guys like me, because I am a goddamn hustler before I am a really, really smart guy. And that is such an advantage because I'm already running towards the opportunity before somebody even figured out that it is an opportunity.
New Hampshire, the guy that I acquired, people have been watching the whole journey. They've seen him grow from 2 million to 8 to 15, 15 to 18. And it's like first to opportunity are the ones that win. And
always.
The guys that basically try to figure it out on their own and watch from afar and can't get coachable, they're getting passed up. And so, you know, whenever we're going to go to lunch, we're going to have something even juicier to talk about, which is a B, the path to $1 billion. We talked about a short-term path to $200 million, but I'm not playing that game.
Love it.
That's not what I'm after.
Yeah.
You know, I'm after having, you know, a network across the whole United States, and it's really not that hard. $10 million roofing companies, dude.
I agree.
The reality is that we're only one person away from a big surge in your business. And for me, it's a guy like Derik, just out of nowhere, is going to do the podcast local to my scene. And it's all through social media that this became possible. So guys, you know, a guy like you weren't always out there putting content. You weren't always out there doing this. When did you decide to put yourself out there?
Man, if you would ask me even 2.5 years ago about social media, I'd have said, I don't do social media. I've got 12 followers, and it's only because I want to watch my daughters and see what they're posting. Like, it wasn't my thing. Now, from a company perspective, of course, we did SEO, but I don't need to be that guy. And then some big thing happened in Miami. We can get into that if you want. I made $15 million in 2 days. I know you're gonna want to hear that story.
Yeah,
real
we
quick.
Hear that story.
So one of the big services, less now because I'm growing my portfolio of companies again. What you call a shadow CEO. So Fortune 500 company, $100 million companies, they're having CEO issues, or the board says that they're having CEO. They bring in someone like myself. We come in, we evaluate everything, and we coach or help. And sometimes it's not just the CEO. Sometimes it's the C-suite team. And it doesn't mean that I'm smarter than them, but sometimes coming into an industry with zero experience gives you insight that the people that are inside of it could never have. It's just as true for my company as it would be for me coming into yours. And so they needed me to come in, and in this case, they wanted me to be the interim CEO, meaning CEO is going to slide out of the way. Why? They were ready to sell. They thought the company was worth $60 million. They were being offered $40 million, and they knew it was because the other company viewed the CEO as a young, weak CEO, and they wouldn't budge. So they brought me in. I made this big public announcement that I was going to be the interim CEO on a Friday night. Saturday, Sunday, they offered $75 million instead of $40.
Oh, nice.
Because I was going to be the stand-in CEO. Now, why is that important for me? All success is made before things start. I negotiated $100,000 a month and 20% when the company sold. Right, both. And nice. So I didn't work more than 2 days, so I didn't get the 100,000, but I got 20% of the 75 million. So in 2 days, I made $15 million.
Damn! You had to teach me that trick.
Which is not a typical situation, but it certainly is a good story.
Well,
but
where do I sign up for your coaching
But anyway,
program?
so that caused, Forbes did an article on me. A bunch of really well-known publishers did stories on me. And then I look at my social media, and it went from 12 to 275,000. And I was like, huh. And now I'm starting to get all these really interesting messages. I want to do business with you. Can I give you money? Can I invest $1 million? You help me? And I said, well, okay.
This might be worth it.
It might be worth it. And then on top of that, I was helping a lot of really well-known people in the space, both social media, and they're saying or regurgitating the things that I said, and they're making millions of dollars a month. And I said, forget this, man. I can talk. I know how to make a connection. Turn the phone around, and it just took off. So I've been doing this like a year and a half, 18 months. Millions of followers, stories, all this stuff. But more importantly, I think the message here is if a guy like me who thought social media was stupid can turn the camera around, and all I've done is post one post a day. There's no script.
So I tell him that they got to post one a day.
One a day.
Guy, 2.5 years, he's built 1 million followers on Instagram alone. He's got 25,000 subscribers on YouTube.
It's unbelievable.
The guy, it just got started in the game. Here's the deal. That's why he's been invited to speak at the Blue Collar American Dream Conference. We got Wes Watson. We got Brad Lee. And Dave Meltzer, he's a guy that's had big success, lost it all, and then did it all again. Look, you got to come. Blue Collar Conference, Fort Myers, September 1st through 3rd. And the biggest thing that I'm excited about is what we can accomplish between now and then.
100%. So excited.
Really, dude, before this podcast, we wanted to go straight to work. We were like, forget the podcast.
Forget the podcast. Let's go.
Let's go. Pull out the balance sheets. All right. So, guys, comment below any questions that you have for Brad. Where can these guys get in touch with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, the best way is on Instagram, just at Derik Fay, and then there's a link in the bio and all of that type of stuff. It'll send you directly to my team. Actively looking for portfolio companies, strong companies that want to grow and exit, and that's it.
Guys, this has been an awesome episode. Comment below any questions that you have for Derik. Appreciate you. Thanks a lot.
My man.
See you next time, guys.